What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, want to talk about the Xbox event that was today and everything that was said, the big headlines going around on the internet. Let's talk about it. So I first want to say, I tweeted about overreaction. I definitely want to say one thing for sure, and we'll get to the overreaction part. I really feel like this could have been done in an email, in a press release. I don't know if they needed to do a podcast for this stuff, because when you boil down what was really said, it was a lot of talk that, and a lot of verbiage, right? Like words that we've heard used time. And it's not a slight against them specifically, but it's a lot of lingo. It's a lot of language that we've heard 1,001 times. And to throw it in and to make it so long when it really didn't need to be, and you could have truly just put this out on just, you have to read it instead of listening to it. I don't know why they did it. And I mean, okay, technically I do know why they did it, right? In fact, I think all of us know why they did it. There was a massive reaction and things kind of got out of control and they had to address it. And I think having these three up there, being able to actually see them, right, in person and do their little podcast thing, I guess that was the importance of it. And I do understand that. Okay, I do understand it. So in terms of what they said, well, they talked about the 4 games, right? Now, they don't say the games themselves. They don't actually give a specific, but 4 games are coming to other consoles. And actually, they weren't even specific on which console. So it is possible that something like a Sea of Thieves would only come to PlayStation and say not Switch, right? Hi-Fi Rush seems like it would come to both of them. There's already been certain things that indicate for sure PlayStation, but I think Switch as well. But the 4 rumored ones, right, are Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, and Grounded. And they make a lot of sense. They absolutely make a lot of sense. Now, the biggest takeaway, and the thing that all of us kind of wanted to hear, right, is what is the future for this stuff? So they talk about 4 games, and that's it for now. Now, they were asked about Indiana Jones. They were asked about Starfield, and Phil shut it down in the moment. Now, what I do want to say is he dodged the question. I mean, you can listen to it, you can read it, whatever you want to do. What he basically says is not now, right? And I think, again, a lot of what was talked about in the show or in the podcast or whatever does indicate a future that could be close to what we were speculating. Now, here's the thing. Even in just the last sentence I said, it's a lot of maybes. It's a lot of coulds and ifs and things like that, right? That is the issue. And again, I mean, honestly, and we said this even going into this event, I wanted specifics. And honestly, we didn't really get specific. We got a couple in the case of like, okay, Game Pass is going to be on, Xbox and PC. Like, basically, don't expect Game Pass on PlayStation or Switch. Although I feel like that could change in the future, doesn't have to. What I really think they did in this show was slow things down. I think a world where Starfield or Indiana Jones, or say a few years from now, the Halos and Gears, like, it doesn't sound like it. Definitely if they came out, say, next month, right? Definitely doesn't sound like they would come out on other consoles. But again, kind of like bread trails, at least what was being said in this podcast was, we're going to do these 4 games. We're going to kind of see how they do. And they never really shut the door for anything else. Even something as big as an Indiana Jones or Starfield wasn't completely shut down. It was shut down in the moment, again, as if they were going to release, say, tomorrow. If Indiana Jones releases tomorrow, would it come out on these consoles? No. But, they never ruled it out completely. And I could see, at least to start with those games, maybe 6 months, maybe 12 months, maybe, whatever, it would come out to other consoles. It does seem like it's moving in that direction. I would say the most fascinating part that I, personally, I guess, took away from this entire podcast was talking about that growth, right? So they talked about, and I think they were very honest, right? We're 2023, amazing year for games. But really, now they didn't say like terrible year for the industry, but they got close. Honestly, they got closer than I thought they would, right? No growth. The industry didn't grow. And, people are throwing out stats even online. The industry really isn't growing. They are finding ways of making more money, but they're not exactly, it's not necessarily sustainable. I actually will take one issue in that part. So while I do appreciate the honesty, and again, it was, I think, a little tip of the hat to, hey, we only have a limited user base. So what we need to do is we need to expand. And Sarah Bond talked about mobile and PC, that they have expanded and they have found new people by doing that. That's true. That, I think, is a sign where it's like, okay, well, we've kind of maxed out who we can reach, but there is another section basically of people that we can go after. And in order to do that, we need to put these games out on, more than one place. So that is one thing. And again, that was kind of, I would say, almost a hint. I will take offense and Phil Spencer specifically said this. Again, not necessarily this is Phil's fault, but it's definitely somebody there's fault. So he talked about basically a decision that needs to be made, right? When the industry is not growing, and I'm going to try to get this quote very, very close, but not exact. When the industry is not growing, you can do two things. You can focus in on the people that you already have and find more ways to monetize them. That's what he said. That's way one. Way two is to try to find basically other people, right? To try to go out there and say, well, we're not content with who we have. We want to add to that. So that's what he said. Now, I do want to just say, we are sitting here in a world where, yes, the deal for, Activision Blizzard hasn't been that long, so maybe things haven't been like fully implemented, right? But we are living in a world where these people, Phil is the owner, I mean, not necessarily him, right, is the owner, but they own Activision Blizzard, who is over there very casually selling horse skins for $75, $70, $65 in Diablo 4, okay? And actually, there was like a new one that they posted yesterday or the day before I saw people talking about on Twitter. So now Phil said that they go for the second choice. They go for expanding the player base. And again, wink, wink, nod, nod, expanding the player base. How do you do that? You put it on PlayStation, put it on Switch, right? That's what they're getting at. I do just want to take a little bit of offense, though, that they are doing actually both. And again, I'm only going to let them off the hook for so long. Like, eventually, they own Activision Blizzard. They own Bethesda. So if there were any terrible practices of these companies and then they, come in, I'll give them a little leeway. But, I mean, if this stuff is still happening like a couple months or like a year or so down the road, Microsoft is guilty, like they're in charge of them, they're just letting it fly. So I don't love that he kind of frames it, and he framed it negatively, right? Because he framed it as, we don't want to monetize the living hell out of the people that we already have, right? Because that's just, what is that? That is literally microtransactions. That's literally, paying to win or live service, and you have to pay for these, like, however, whatever, I guess, strategy you want to say. That's what he was hinting at, and I honestly took it and how he framed it as a negative. The thing is, though, they are actually doing that. They're doing both, right? They are trying to expand, which was a big part of why they did this show in the first place, but they are monetizing the same people as many ways as possible. They are literally doing that right now. Now, maybe, again, they haven't fixed it, but I want that horse armor gone. I don't ever want to see in my life that you can pay $70 in Diablo 4 for freaking horse armor. That needs to go away. Really, the only other couple things, and again, they were kind of like fly-by moments, so Game Pass, again, like I mentioned, going to be on the Xbox platform and all that, but, games are still coming to that day one, because there was the rumor that they're going to pull back on that, right? That some maybe games are not going to be on Game Pass. So they did that. They did announce Diablo 4, right, coming to Game Pass on the 28th, so that's kind of cool. And then Sarah Bond really quickly threw in about the next Xbox console, and she talked about, I believe she said something along the lines of like the jump in technology is, like enormous. It's like the biggest one we've ever had or the biggest one you've ever seen. Now, here's the deal. I half believe that. I think the next PlayStation, Xbox will clearly be more powerful. Technology moves very fast. I have no doubt, okay? And I have no doubt, developers will be able to do, cooler things. I'd say like two different things to that, though. Number one, I guess maybe the older I get or the more invested in the stuff that I become, power is not everything. I think a lot of developers hide behind power and looks versus innovation. So you're seeing a lot of games, I think that, yeah, they push the boundaries of visuals or, what you're able to do with the technology, but they've actually regressed massively in pushing like the medium forward, like the literal, not in how you look at it, but like how the game actually plays. So, I mean, just saying that the console is like high tech and stuff honestly, and that's not them. That's not even their fault, right? That's like the industry. They need to get to, hey, we know we can optimize. We know we can push things in terms of graphics and all that stuff, but we need to like get back to like making games that really push the boundaries in other ways, I guess I should say. But then the other thing that I will take offense, and again, maybe not even necessarily with Xbox, but Xbox is actually very guilty of this. I am tired of hearing like the world's most powerful console. I mean, they literally, they were the ones who did in the first place. So I don't know, like I half believe it. I think it will be very powerful. I have no doubt. I'm sure I'll buy it day one. It's not a massive attack or anything. I'm sure I'll get it. But to hear it's going to be like the biggest jump we've ever seen in our lives from like anything, to me, that sounds very much like the world's most powerful console, which maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Honestly, it doesn't really matter because of the first point that I said. I don't really care if one of the consoles, I'm sure one of them would be the more powerful of the two consoles, right? But ultimately, power doesn't mean everything. So just to throw that in there. So let me know what you think. If I missed anything in the comments, make sure as always you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.